After a week one of exciting matchups, week two of college football takes it back a notch. But still, as we're on the quest to figure out if these teams that we follow every week are any good, who's overrated, who's underrated, which coaches are saving their jobs, which coaches are headed towards the job board at the end of this season. Maybe we'll find out this week, maybe not. We're going to do it all. We're going to talk about it right here on College Football Y'all. My name's Brandon Taylor. We got a lot of matchups, but this is the week, it seems like here, week two, that is usually week one. Week one in years past, there may be a couple big matchups, but other than that, it's usually the FCS game. It's the big, group of five team that all the big boys are playing. Well, not so much. There were a lot of big matchups and already upsets this early in the season. This week, it's a little bit more of a mellow slate. Not a whole lot going on. There are a couple matchups that I am highlighting here, and we'll go through those right here in a minute. But thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you may be joining me today on the podcast here. That's College Football Y'all. Subscribe, follow the podcast, the YouTube channel, and all those things if you want to see more. If you want to see every time that I post, every time that these episodes drop, it'll go right to your feed there on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. And there's a lot of them out there, including YouTube, where you can watch a video version of the podcast and the audio-only version as well. So here we are on a Friday, September 5th, as this podcast comes out, and we've heard a lot in the past week. We've heard a lot from the upsets that happened last week. Week one, the big fall of Alabama. That's what everybody was talking about. Brian Kelly and LSU, they get over the hump and they beat Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. There were some other triumphs and other tribulations, but the main one has to be Alabama, right? And there are still a lot of questions about that team. And somebody like myself that thought really highly of Alabama this season, that were looking for them to be a big player in the SEC, big player in the playoff, and unfortunately, national title winner. Now, it's not all said and done. There's a lot of football to be played. But that start is not what you wanted if you're Alabama, if you're Kalen DeBoer, if you're Ty Simpson, if you're that coaching staff. That's not the way you wanted to start this campaign, where you take what you did last year, you built upon that, and you try to compete for a title. How many problems did we see in that game Saturday? And I'll tell you, Alabama does not have any competition this year. They're playing Louisiana Monroe. I'll go ahead and mention that. Alabama's a 34.5-point favorite in that game. Alabama falling to number 21 in the AP poll. That's a 7:45 Eastern Time, 6:45 Central Time kick on the SEC Network. I'm going to go ahead and mention that now as I kind of bring up last week, give my final thoughts about last week, and kind of look forward to this week. The problem in Alabama right now under Kalen DeBoer is the changing of the guard has been a shock to the system, because the Alabama system has not changed since Nick Saban left. Fan expectations have not changed since Nick Saban left. The overall outlook and the view and all the what's the word I'm even looking for? The way everyone views the Alabama Crimson Tide, the program, the school, is no different now than it was 2 years ago, than it was 10 years ago. Just because they get a new coach doesn't mean any slack is going to be given. Kalen DeBoer has no slack. He's expected to go in there and you might get a year, but we saw last year, you lose some games, you lose a pretty ugly game versus Oklahoma, you lose, you just get dominated by Vanderbilt. And that's just two of the hiccups. The fans expect so much. The administration expects so much. Heck, the media expects so much. So you have a 9-win season last year, and that was way, way, way underachieving. So then, okay, it's time that, Kalen DeBoer, he's kind of making it his own team. He's recruiting. He's trying to, get completely shed of the Nick Saban stuff because the team's his now. Yeah, this a lot of players that played for Saban are still there. But your first impression this season is a loss to Florida State where you showed discipline issues, players giving up. Just like I said, a lack of discipline was big, and it's something that it's hard to see and it's hard to imagine. It's almost unbelievable to see that a player in an Alabama uniform could have a lack of respect, lack of discipline, and just an overall almost laziness in game, like giving up on plays. You've got a culture change that has shocked the Alabama system. And then you've got a quarterback in Ty Simpson that, if he has a clean pocket, he's going to do great. 23 of 43, 254 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But when he was under pressure, here are the stats for him when he had any kind of pressure in the game. The past plays where he was under pressure, he went 3 of 14 for 68 yards. When he is under pressure, he does not perform well. That offensive line was dominated in that game. I don't expect their offensive line to be dominated against Louisiana Monroe. That is a bad football team. And that is a program that is hurting. This is not the Louisiana Monroe that beat Alabama in Nick Saban's first year back, just a little under 20 years ago. No, this is not the same UL Monroe team. So Alabama's not losing, but it just goes to say, this is why I put Kalen DeBoer at mild on the coach's seat gauge. Your seat is not cold as ice. If you're at Alabama, he knew what he was getting into when he took the Alabama job, when he took it from Nick Saban. He thought, I am not like everybody else. A lot of people might want this job, but a lot of people don't want the burden. Instead, they'll take a position somewhere else that may be a little bit easier. The expectations are a little bit lower. But Kalen DeBoer also had to know that just because he takes over this Alabama program that has all this history under a coach, Nick Saban, that has won all these championships, that has done all these great things, that has laid the groundwork for the future, it's not necessarily a plug-and-play system. You couldn't take Nick Saban out, insert another coach, and there'd be immediate success. There are a lot of football programs out there that just the right coach at the right time was the difference. You could say that for Nick Saban. He went, 6-6 the first year he was at Alabama, and then he won a national title. Just like that. And never stopped. There's been other instances where coaches go to a team, doesn't work out. Another coach comes in, title contender. Throughout history, we've seen that. So we've seen the highs and lows of different programs. Look at a team like Nebraska. There are so many others that have had an incredible past, an incredibly successful past. And through patches of time, certain schools have had certain spurts of success, depending on what coach was at what program at a certain time. And right now, it may not be the right time for Alabama. It may not be the right time for Kalen DeBoer. The next coach after Kalen DeBoer, or the next one after that, or the next one after that, might be the guy that is an equivalent to Nick Saban. Alabama may never reach the same heights that they did with Nick Saban. But, you know, I know that Nick Saban's way of coaching is, in this day and time, kind of, people will say outdated. But Nick Saban had this, militaristic-like approach to coaching football. He expected a lot from his players. He was hard on his players. He used all this language that most coaches, even throughout junior high school, all the way up to the professional football league, the leagues, I should say, professional football leagues, because there are others, UFL and such, and Canadian football. But it's Nick Saban being tough on his players, but expecting absolute excellence no matter who you're playing, no matter if you're winning by 50, if you're losing by 50, whether the game just started or it's the last play. He expected 100% effort, 100% greatness. Give the best that you can give, all the effort that you have in your body. And players did that. And they were successful. And I just don't see that from Kalen DeBoer and from the Alabama Crimson Tide. They're going to win this game against Louisiana Monroe. But then after that, the road does not get easier. Yeah, they do have Wisconsin. And, that may be a tricky little game there on September 13th. I see him getting through that. Then you know what? On September 27th, after a bye week, they have to travel to Sanford Stadium. They got to play the Georgia Bulldogs. And that's going to be a night game on ABC. That stadium's going to be rocking. And Kirby Smart would love to beat Alabama again. Revenge what happened last season. Beat him again as in, Kirby Smart has beaten Alabama. He was one of the few coaches to beat Nick Saban. He would love to beat them again. Just under a different coach. Revenge their loss from last season. And then who is that? Right after Georgia, it's Vanderbilt. Now, I won't go through the rest of Alabama's schedule because we'll get to that as we go on down the road, but it could be tough for Alabama. But enough about Alabama. I've said what I had to say. It's up to them. Everybody in the world that has a microphone, that has any kind of device, has given their opinion on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Maybe we're overreacting a little bit. Maybe not. I just know that right now we're at week 2 and there's already odds for replacement coaches. Now, I really think we're jumping the gun, and I will never sit here at the beginning of September and talk about a coach, talk about a new coach, talk about coaching odds and all those things. I will not get into that. I will not get into that in October. There are plenty of other things to look for. Now, if a coach gets fired mid-season, we'll talk about it then, but I will not sit here and waste time talking about a replacement of a coach when we're just now entering week 2. Let's turn the page to the entire SEC slate. I have it right here for you, those of you that are watching on YouTube. But I'll go through it here one by one for those that are listening in podcast form, because I think more people listen to this podcast than they view it, and I am perfectly fine with that. So, for week 2, Texas, the number 7th ranked. Texas Longhorns are at home against San Jose State. That's an 11 a.m. kick Central Time. 12 noon Eastern. Texas is a 36.5 point favorite. I'm not going to pick a line on that. I'll let you If you want to bet a game like that, go ahead and do so. But, I mean, if they win by 5 touchdowns, you hit the under. You would pick San Jose State. But for Arch Manning, and as we kind of look back on last week, I think it's good, and I think Arch Manning needed to be thrown into the fire like that. He got a little bit of experience last year, but he did not face any competition that was anywhere close to the high level of competition that Ohio State was. I mean, for goodness sake, they were the national champions. Now, the team is not the exact same team that they were last year, being Ohio State, but still, to get, put through the ringer having to go to Columbus, Ohio, and play that game, I think was good for Arch, good for that team. It's getting you're getting better right off the bat, and I think the later part of your season you already would have progressed over teams that have chosen to schedule easier, lesser teams, lesser opponents early in the season. We saw that with Ole Miss last year. They played all their 4 non-conference games in the first 4 weeks and then lost to Kentucky because they sleptwalked through that game after having 4 easy matchups where they scored 60 plus in 3 of them and over 40 in the other one. But for Arch, I think he's going to get a little bit of a confidence boost this week. He can work on that accuracy a little bit. Those little inconsistency issues that he had last week, and I think he'll be just fine. Texas, as we look ahead, in their schedule, they've got a couple easy tests. Actually, they have 3. They got UTEP and then Sam Houston State, on September 20th before they have to go to the Swamp to play Florida. And so is that, I would say, since they had the easy matchup, have the easy matchups, not the first game, but, you got a pretty big matchup and then 3 practice games before you really get into SEC play and you go through the gauntlet. Is that good for them? I don't know. But literally from there on out, after they play Sam Houston State, it's SEC all the way to the end. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad. But nevertheless, that's what Texas has got. And as we move on here, Utah State at number 19, Texas A&M. It's going to be an 11:45 Central kick on SEC Network. That's another game that I wouldn't waste my time betting on. Texas A&M is going to get a lot of practice. That's a pretty good looking team. But, until we really get into SEC play, it's going to be hard to determine how good a lot of these teams are. And really the same thing for Georgia. Now, they played Marshall team last week, and they beat them pretty good. They've got Austin Peay. It's going to be what you expect out of the number 4 team in the country. That's going to be the ESPN Plus game there at 2:30 p.m. Central, 3:30 Eastern there in Georgia. Expect big things out of them in that game. And then the 4th game here, also a 2:30 Central, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time kickoff on ABC is the SEC game, SEC on ABC game. It's the number 20th ranked Ole Miss Rebels traveling up to Lexington, Kentucky to play the Kentucky Wildcats. This game around here, little bit interesting. We've talked about this before. Ole Miss loses to Kentucky. Kentucky comes to Oxford last year. It's a Kentucky team that had a couple pretty good tests early in the season before having to play Ole Miss. They were more mentally and physically prepared than Ole Miss was. Ole Miss made a lot of mistakes, and it was just an overall weird game. And it was a huge bump in the road that led to Ole Miss missing the playoff, essentially. Yeah, Ole Miss shot themselves in the foot 2 more times. But this right here was Absolutely unacceptable. And this is let's see, Ole Miss. The line is Ole Miss favored by 8.5. If I was betting on this, I would pick Ole Miss and the 8.5. Oh man, I think Lane Kiffin and this team is looking to avenge that loss. And I know, look, it's a cliche thing. Every time a team loses, like, oh yeah, obviously you want to beat the team that beat you last year, especially when you were when they were the underdog and they came in and whooped you. Obviously, you're going to want to get your revenge the next season. So that doesn't mean anything. They could say that and they could get whooped by Kentucky. I don't think so. When I look at this Kentucky team, this is a completely different team from last year. They got major roster turnover. They got multiple new additions and replacements on both sides of the ball. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I know they have struggled with recruiting. The coaching staff has had a lot of turnover in it. Mark Stoops, I'm telling you, I've said this a few weeks ago, and I'll say it again. He seems to be a little bit checked out. I think he's on his way out, if not this season. The next season or two, he's going to be out. He's been there a long time. But I think Kentucky fans are looking for a change, and I think this season, this is it. And I just don't see a situation where Ole Miss loses this game. Now, what can happen is if Austin Simmons, starts making mistakes, if that offensive line that we know is weak from Ole Miss, allows that Kentucky defense to get to him, to rattle him, and, cause him to make mistakes, it could be a long day for Ole Miss. There are some factors that, we got to look at here. Yeah, Zach Calzada there at Kentucky. He's had a lot of experience in the SEC. Can he make any moves? Can he throw on this Ole Miss defense? Honestly, we saw that matchup last week for Ole Miss when they played Georgia State. They put up some big numbers. There was a few mistakes by Austin Simmons. He threw some bad passes, turned the ball over just a little bit, and they looked ugly in a couple spots. Now, they scored a lot of points, and they did pretty good things on defense. But we did not learn anything from that. We didn't learn a thing from that game. And this goes back to what I've said before and what I said earlier about scheduling these lesser games. Because you have a false sense of, I don't know if it's a false sense of hope, a false sense of greatness. Your team ends up being overrated when it comes down to crunch time. The good thing about this is I'm glad that Ole Miss has this game in the second week than like the fifth week, like it was last season. I would much prefer they play this game early and get it behind them and get a good SEC opponent, in front of them to, kind of make them better and really make each other better, honestly. Because I think that's how it is. I think that's how it goes when two SEC teams, two big conference opponents, two good teams, and it could be Texas and Ohio State, Big Ten, SEC. You make each other better when you're two good teams and you play early in the season. When you just get thrown straight to the ringer week 1 or week 2 or week 3. But I'm picking Ole Miss to win that one pretty big. And I think they're going to get that one behind them and look ahead to the next thing. And Tennessee's going to do the same thing. They got an in-state team, East Tennessee State, coming to town, the number 22nd ranked Tennessee Volunteers. That's also going to be 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern, ESPN Plus. Tennessee, there's not even a line on that game because it's going to be an absolute blowout by Tennessee. So there's not much more to say about that. Kansas at Missouri. Kansas at Missouri. This might be one that you might want to take a look at. You can go between this game and the Ole Miss Kentucky game. This one kicking off at the same time, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. This one's on ESPN too. Missouri is a 6.5-point favorite. This could get interesting. I fully expect Eli Drinkwitz and the Missouri Tigers to get it done here at home in Columbia, Missouri, because Kansas, unlike Kansas State, not that great of a football team, but I say Missouri covers that spread. That might be a good game to turn back and forth to there in the middle of our college football Saturday. So we continue on. South Florida. They did some good things in week 1. They beat Boise State, a team that I predicted to make it to the playoff as the Group of 5 representative. They're going to the Swamp to play number 13th ranked Florida Gators, 3:15 Central. That'll be 4:15 Eastern on the SEC network. Florida is a 17.5-point favorite, and Florida is a darn good football team. Everybody's healthy, as far as I can tell, and that was the requirement that I put on this team early in the season. I think they can go way over their win total. I didn't have them in the playoff, but they could make the playoff. If everyone's healthy, that's really the requirement. If everyone's healthy, that Florida football team is going to make it to the playoff, or at least make it right up to the playoff and exceed expectations. So they're going to beat South Florida. Now it gets tricky. Arkansas State at Arkansas, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. This one, Arkansas, 23.5-point favorites. They're going to get the win there. It's just another one of these in-state games. You got your lesser team against the big boys, the big brother of the state. Arkansas, another team that I can't tell you if they're good or not. I can't tell you if they're up to exceed our expectations. Just don't know yet. And if we look at Arkansas and kind of look at the road that they have ahead, let's see. They have, yep. So they're playing Arkansas State, and then they got to go to Oxford to play the Ole Miss Rebels. So that's going to be their first big test, where we're really going to see if kind of what they're made of. But I think Arkansas is going to get it done, and South Carolina is going to get it done. I'm not going to waste any time talking about this game. You've got South Carolina State traveling to Columbia, South Carolina, to face the number 10th ranked South Carolina Gamecocks, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. You notice a lot of these games are the streaming ESPN Plus game because they're just, they're obligated to have an ESPN Plus or SEC Network Plus game every week, and usually it's one of these easy games. Louisiana Tech at number 3 LSU. Same thing with this one. 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. LSU's going to blow Louisiana Tech's doors off. And then take a look at this right here. The number 12th ranked Arizona State traveling to Starkville, Mississippi to face the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Now, this is an ESPN2 game, 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. Why am I leaning Mississippi State on this game? Because I am leaning Mississippi State on this game. Arizona State is a great team. I have hyped this Arizona State team up. I think they're making it to the Big 12 championship game. I think they're winning the Big 12 championship game. I think they're making it to the playoff. They don't have Cam Skattebo. They don't have a lot of those big playmakers. I still think they're a solid team. Now, for Mississippi State, are they better than they was last year? Yeah, I think they are. Jeff Lebby, in year 2, after a disastrous 2-10 year 1, it would be an absolute, man, it would be so big for him, for that program, for the fan base, if they was somehow able to win this game. They win this game, they automatically make their over, in my opinion. And we could be looking at them upsetting an SEC team, an SEC opponent this year. Arizona State is only a 6.5-point favorite in this ball game. Think about this. Arizona State having to travel to Starkville. It could be tricky. It could be tricky. Now, there were some comments made by Arizona State's coach, I won't even say his name, about the state of Mississippi. Some little subtle jokes there about the food not being good, about them having to find a hotel way out far away from campus, and something about to find the only hotel that wasn't a casino or some garbage like that. And I'm telling you, what I've seen is people of Mississippi State, people of the state of Mississippi, I should say, Ole Miss fans, Southern Miss fans, other fans in the state are all kind of coming together in unison. And they're rooting for Mississippi State to whoop the you-know-what out of Arizona State. I've seen a lot of comments, both verbally and what I've read on social media. People are mad at this dude. People are mad at Arizona State, and they would like to see nothing else than for them to get whooped by them Bulldogs. And you know what? I'm feeling confident, and I'm feeling froggy today. I'd originally picked Arizona State to beat Mississippi State, and I would have probably picked that spread. I would have probably said at least they're winning by a touchdown, I would think. That's easy. I'm scratching all that. I'm scratching it. Mississippi State. Give me Mississippi State here. They win. By how much, I don't know. Mississippi State is winning this game. And I think the fans are going to be, look, you can get into Davis Wade Stadium pretty darn cheap. I think people are going to be there. I think the fans are going to be there, and they're going to make a difference. I think they will. And I don't know what Mississippi State does to win this game, and I don't know what Arizona State does to mess it up for them. But it's going to happen, folks. It's going to happen. Take that to the bank. So let's move on. Oh, boy, the next game here, and really the other game we're going to talk about. Before I get to that one, I want to go ahead and go through the rest of them. We got Ball State at Auburn, 6:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPNU. Vanderbilt at Virginia Tech could be an interesting game here. That is on the ACC Network, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. Vandy and Virginia Tech, that might be one to flip over if you're going between that one. Oh, man, we got a lot of games, a lot of good games happening at the same time. Darn it. And we've already talked about Alabama, but Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech, Arizona State, and Mississippi State, and this game right here on ABC, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, the number 15th ranked Michigan Wolverines traveling to Oklahoma to face the number 18th ranked Oklahoma Sooners. This right here is this may turn out to be a classic. Maybe not. You got Bryce Underwood in Michigan. You got John Mateer in Oklahoma. Both teams, both quarterbacks have put up some pretty good numbers. And I wonder if I can pull up the stat breakdown. This is what I'm going to do right here. I want to pull up Oklahoma stats. We'll go with Oklahoma first. Okay. So John Mateer is at 30 of 37, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 392 passing yards. Bryce Underwood for Michigan, 21 of 31, 1 touchdown, 251 passing yards. Bryce Underwood, the freshman, excuse me. Everybody's rallying around him. Everything I've read, they love the kid. John Mateer, dark horse to be a pretty darn good quarterback, like award-winning quarterback, possibly, for the Sooners. He looked sharp last week. Now, Michigan is one of those teams. I think I don't think they're as bad as so bad they're dropping into like the second tier of the Big Ten, but they are hanging on from being relegated. It's just the fact that you have Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon right above you. And if you have those three, I would say Michigan is the fourth one. So they're hanging on. Now, a team like Illinois, and I will talk about Illinois here in a second. I've got this on my notes. Michigan's tricky, and Oklahoma's tricky as well because Oklahoma struggled last season in their first year in the Southeastern Conference. I think they're improving this year. I think they're moving up to at least that second tier of the SEC, maybe the upper second tier. But honestly, I think Oklahoma, and I've thought this all along when I was looking at this game 2 months ago, I thought Oklahoma has the power. I think they've got the strength to do it, and I think they will do it. So I will take Oklahoma minus 5.5 on that spread. I think they're winning by maybe 10 points. I could be dead wrong, but I like what I see out of John Mateer and that program. I mean, I think this is really this is going to be a big step forward for Oklahoma, and man, they could shock some people this season. And if we're looking at Oklahoma, because I think they honestly have a better chance of shocking and doing greater things than Michigan does. Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout, Red River Rivalry, whatever you want to call the game, you know, that game's always tricky. And right now, Texas, there's already spread on that game, and it's in October. But right now, the spread is 9.5 Texas. Hey, Oklahoma could go in there, and they're in Dallas, and whoop up on the Longhorns. Oklahoma can prove themselves at South Carolina later in the season. They can prove themselves at home versus Ole Miss. That's going to be a tough road game for Austin Simmons and that young Ole Miss team with a few veterans sprinkled in. They traveled to Rocky Top on November 1st, and they play Tennessee. Man, they could really prove something there as well. They've got Alabama the next week. They got Missouri, and then they'll be at home versus LSU. Man, if they win some of these games, we're talking about a huge step up for Oklahoma, like reaching, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, LSU level, if that makes sense. That's the SEC slate. That's going to be probably the best game to watch. And I'll say, if I'm looking back at all these games, I would say that Ole Miss Kentucky game is one that you need to circle at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. Now, while you're watching that one, flip over to Kansas at Missouri, also at the same time, and you can watch that in between. But then, obviously, you're going to want to watch Michigan at Oklahoma. Obviously, have that your main feed. And if you've got either YouTube TV or some way that you can watch multiple feeds, you're going to want to put that one. You're going to want to put Arizona State at Mississippi State, at least those two. But Vanderbilt and Virginia Tech could be pretty exciting too. That one's going to be in Blacksburg. That could be exciting too over on the ACC Network. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have the quad box there, at least the quad box, because I can have 2 games on at one time. I can have 3 games on at one time. But why have 2 games? Why have 1 game, 2 games, or 3 games on at one time? But I can have 4. The more, the merrier. That's what I say. But I want to talk about one more game for this week, and that's Illinois at Duke. Illinois is currently number 11 in the country. I have bragged on Luke Altmaier. I'll continue to brag on him. And I'll pull up the line here, make sure it is the same. Yes, Illinois is a 2.5-point favorite against the Duke Blue Devils. Now, here's what I think. Yeah, Luke Altmaier, 17-21. Outstanding. 3 touchdowns, 217 passing yards. Now, Duke has, Darian Mensah. Yep. 27 and 34, 3 touchdowns, 389 passing yards. He's put up a heck of a, amount of stats as well. Oh man, I like this Illinois team. Actually, I love this Illinois team. This is a playoff team. I'm going out on a limb. I'm saying this is a playoff team. They could finish better than Michigan. Heck, they could finish better than they could get to third spot in the Big Ten. I know I'm blowing them up here, but I like what I'm seeing from Luke Altmaier. I'm liking what I'm seeing for this whole team, this coaching staff. I think they've got everything that they need to have a lot of success this season. I've went through this schedule before. I'll go through it again. If they get past Duke here, they've got Western Michigan. They go to Indiana. They can take care of that one. They're at home versus USC. That could be a little tricky, but I think they can get that one done. They got Purdue at Purdue before going back home. Now they have Ohio State at home, and Ohio State's going to be favored by a couple touchdowns in that game. They are currently, even though that's in October, Ohio State's favored by 13.5. Can you imagine if Luke Altmaier at home beats this Ohio State team who beat Texas in week 1? Then Illinois have Washington, Rutgers, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Northwestern to end the year. There is no way that Illinois can't reach double-digit wins this season. So I'm picking Illinois minus 2.5. This spread is way too close to even. I think Illinois is going to continue their campaign, and they're going to really prove some things this season. That's just my opinion. And that's that. It's my college football, the college football y'all opinion. There you go. That's it. Well, that's week 2. The preview show. We're continuing to roll. We got a little bit behind schedule this week. We'll try to do better. Try to correct all our mistakes. Next week, we're going to have the full content. A lot of things came up this week that were out of my control. A little unprecedented things. You know how life goes. But I thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please comment, follow on the socials, comment on the, if you're on like Spotify, for example, you can leave a comment under this episode and keep it right here to College Football Y'all for all the content throughout the football season and beyond. But for Brandon Taylor, enjoy week 2. It's going to be some fun games, and we'll see you on the other side. Peace.